Johners Podcasting Network, found exclusively at wrestlingwithjohners.com. Hello, good evening, and welcome to the latest episode of Wrestling with Johners, episode 328, and our second live interview in the space of 24 hours. For those of you that were tuned in yesterday, we had Scott Garland, the former Scotty Too Hotty WWF legend, came back onto the show. He reached out, said, Johners, get me back on the show. I want to promote my UK and Europe tour for November and December. So I couldn't say no. We had a tremendous conversation last night. Talk about what he's been up to since he was last on the show. And of course, his up and coming tour for November and December. And I do have a third live interview later on this week on Friday. I've got the All-Star Ruby Manitoba, fresh off of 3 months training with Dr. Tom Pritchard over in Tennessee, over in the States. It'd be great to get her kind of perspective on how that went. Her fantastic rise on the UK scene. She's still very, very young, got a very bright future ahead of her. Can't wait to talk to Ruby Manitoba. And for those that tuned in yesterday, I did actually announce my lineup for November. Now, November marks the 5th anniversary of Wrestling with Johners. You can see some fantastic UK talent there. Session Moth Martina, Lana Austion, Tom Scarborough, Kira Chimera, Dirty Dango, Nico Angelo, Leon Cage, and at the top there, I've got World of Sport legend, British wrestling legend, Johnny Saint, coming onto the show. I've already recorded 2 parts with Johnny Saint from his home a couple of weeks ago. Tremendous conversation, really, really nice guy. And those 8 or so interviews, maybe more actually, are going to be dropping during the 5th anniversary month of Wrestling with Johners in November. But today, I got that young lady just to the right-hand side of me on the screen, Ivy. Ivy, thank you so much for coming on as a guest. Episode 328. How are you doing today?
I can't believe you've got me on after Scotty Too Hotty. What a downfall for everyone to go.
It goes from there to there.
I can't. He's a legend. He's a legend. No.
Absolutely. But wonderful to have you on the show. Honestly, I guess I've been wanting to get on for a little while, and then I finally plucked up the courage and asked you, and you said yes. So you made my day, you made my month. But thank you so much. And you've had a tremendous couple of years, really, certainly since coming out of lockdown, and we'll talk about all of that and your early career and everything in between, teaming with Lana, teaming with various others. We will bring it all up. But the first thing, we're just days away from Halloween, Ivy, and I've got to show these pictures directly from your Instagram. It's an awesome artistry, face paint. I don't know how you would describe it. There's more to come. That one's awesome, although the first one is a little bit scary because I am scared of spiders, so I'm going to take that off the screen straight away. That one there looks like you've been involved in some sort of bike accident. I don't know. This is my favorite one, from Nightmare Before Christmas, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, Nightmare Before Christmas is my absolute favorite.
Oh, 100%, and a couple more there. But like I say, perfect. Just days away from Halloween, of course, and some wonderful artistry. I've got to ask, did you do it yourself?
I did. It was
Tell us about it. That's a tremendous talent. Yeah. It's a wonderful design.
I'm just a loser that loves Halloween. There's no other story to it. I just spend any spare time I've got around Halloween just doing daft stuff like that. Brady will tell you our house is now covered in various Halloween decorations and has been for probably 2 months now. I've got him doing all sorts of Halloween activities, and he can't say no now because it's October, so it's so close. Yeah. He has to go along with it all. But
the question is, how soon will you get in Halloween decorations up? But yeah, I mean, obviously it's the time of year that you look forward to, have a lot of fun with, obviously by the decorations that are going up in your living room and the face paints. But are you going to be going to any Halloween parties?
Not parties, but we went to a scare maze on Saturday, just gone, Yorkshire Scaregrounds, and then we're going to another one on Halloween, Scarefest, I think it's called.
Right.
Buxton. Zizi's organised it for us, so I'm just going along with that. But that's the day of Halloween, so no parties, but we'll be getting scared again by some scary scare actors.
When they jump out and
yes.
Wow. I'm well
Yes.
out of this. Well out of this. I don't like that. No. Proper
We
scaredy cat when it comes to things like that.
we took Lana to one on Saturday, and it's her first time she's ever been. And it's probably one of the most fun times I've ever had is watching. She was dressed in this big long pink coat, and she kept saying, "Why do they keep coming to me?" I'm like, "Because you have a giant bright pink coat on, so you are an obvious target." And it was great.
All she had to do was start singing, and then they would soon.
That is true.
Did you
Yeah.
suggest that to her? Maybe not, but
No,
there
we
we
should
go.
have took the megaphone, shouldn't we? Should have took the megaphone.
2023 has been an awesome year for you, hasn't it? And I'm going to bring up some of your accomplishments, some of your titles very, very soon. But if you were to sum up, I don't know, since the beginning of 2023 till now, what would you say about your year so far?
I would say it's been incredibly fun. It's probably the most fun year I've had. That's all I want from wrestling is to have fun. And some of the stuff I've done this year has been my most favourite things that I've done in my career. So I've, picked up with the Karen stuff, picked up the stuff with Lana and the other tag stuff I've been doing. So fun. Definitely fun.
100%. Now I'm going to bring it. Now I had to clarify with you a couple of days ago which titles you're holding at the moment, because once upon a time I think you had about 5 bouts, but you are definitely the women's champion of BWR, and there's a couple of shots of you there, and say an action shot there with the title in all of your glory. You're also the women's champion for Shooting Star Pro, I understand, and of course you're one half of the Win Tag Team Champions with Joey Cement, a character I'm definitely going to talk about a bit later on. Really want to get into Joey Cement because he's a wonderful character and a rising star in the scene. But tell us a bit about some of them championships. I think especially the BWR. I think you won earlier. Oh, the BWR. How long have you had the BWR for? That's quite a long reign, I understand, isn't it?
No, BWR is quite new. So BWR, I think, is just over a month, might be 2 months now.
Right.
The BWR was a 4-way match. That was myself, Tonga, who was the reigning champion at the time,
yes,
Rio, and Alexis Falcon. People might have noticed that I had a friend there with me in one of those pictures, which was Zizi. She might have got involved in the match. Can't be certain. Can't say I really remember. But yeah, so BWR is probably one of the newer ones.
Right.
I think it's about 2 months, something like that. I've had one defense since, which was Tonga, and obviously successful.
Obviously, and tell us about Shooting Star Pro. It's a promotion I'm not too familiar with. Enlighten me and tell us a little bit about being their women's champion.
So it was actually so Shooting Star Pro is not in existence anymore. It's actually their championship's moved over and is defended at One More Round, which is the run by Phoenix Events in Sheffield. They do run sort of the odd charity shows every now and again, and they are getting together with Future Wrestling to run some more Sheffield-based shows. But that one was won at One More Round, which is the yearly event to support cancer charities. So all the money raised from there goes to there. So that one was from that event.
Absolutely, and I think it's from this event here, wasn't it?
That's the one, yeah.
Where you got busted open against Zizi, I understand. And there you are. And I think that particular championship we're on about is the one front and center, isn't it? The kind of purpley pink belt. But some beautiful championships there. And when I saw that picture to start off with, I honestly thought that was some more Halloween makeup, to be honest with you. But
people have asked if it's real.
Tell us about that, because that's pretty impressive, and that's hard way, isn't it?
Yeah, that was just something so daft. It was catching Zizi on a dive. Me and Zizi have done that. We've wrestled each other a million times before. We've done it so many times. We do it almost every match we wrestle on, and there just happened to be some steel steps behind me as I've landed, and that was a very large cut. Required 5 staples in the top of my head. The referees were very angry at me, kept telling me to stop, and I was like, no, I'm getting through this match. We were main event. It was the last match of the night, so there's no way I was stopping. So I had to apologise profusely to Sandy and referee for swearing at them throughout the match and telling them to leave me alone and making sure I finished it. So yeah, but we got through it. Just a bit of blood and I think it was 6 centimeters long, the cut in the end.
But I suppose once the adrenaline's running, isn't it? And you're thinking, no, I've got to complete the match. Can't let the fans down. Can't let the promotion down. I've never been in the ring. I've never had 6 staples or a 6 centimeter long gash, so I don't know what I'm talking about. But I suppose when you're in the moment, you just want to carry on, don't you?
Yeah, I got up and thought, right, is this concussion? Because if this is concussion, it's a different story. I thought, do you know what the next spot is? And I was like, I kind of know what it is. Roll back in and just carried on. I did forget the next thing and said, Zizi, what is it? She told me, and then we were fine from there on out. So because I knew, like, okay, this is just a bit of blood. And in my head, I've cut my head open before and looked like that. And then when I got back, it was the tiniest little cut. So in my head, I was like, it'd just be that again. I'll be fine. And it did kind of like stop later on in the match. I was like, it's no worries. It's fine. Because I know I'd not got a concussion. I knew what was going on. I just thought I'll carry on. But that was maybe the wrong decision, but I don't regret it because we got through it. But,
I've seen wrestlers carry on from far worse injuries. There we go. And like I say, congratulations on that match and the win and everything. And I'm going to bring up that picture one more time because we've mentioned about 3 championships that you hold currently. I think there must be maybe a 4th or a 5th title there. And I think, certainly in 2023, you were the PEW Women's Champion, weren't you? The True Grit Women's Champion. So at one point, you were holding 5 championships.
Yeah. I unfortunately lost the PEW Championship a couple of weeks ago to Lizzie Evo. Can't really moan at that, can I? But still got the 4. Yeah, True Grit was the other one that you mentioned, True Grit Women's Champion. Still got the 4, but there was 5 for a short while.
Of course. And I think I've actually got a picture of the True Grit one just there. There we go.
Yeah. Beautiful title belt, that one.
It really is. I like kind of the angles on it and everything. It's different to the usual one. But we spoke about kind of summing up your 2023, and like I say, you're a title holder of 4 championships at the moment for 4 different groups. That must be a pretty proud moment inside you, knowing that companies want to book you, want to put their championships on you, and put you in their main events.
Yeah, it's so nice when a company puts their faith in you and does something like that. And I do just genuinely, for every place that I work, just want to make that company better for, myself and everyone else involved. And so when somebody trusts you to do that, it's kind of like the promoters putting their trust in you to say, the work you've done for us is good. And that's all I want to do. Is I don't set out to win title belts. It's great if you get them, but it's not the end of the world. There's all sorts of fun stuff you can do without a title belt, but for a promotion to trust you, that's always a nice feeling.
Absolutely. We've had a few people get in touch already. Going to bring up some questions. Wrestling Jeebus. Huge, big-time wrestling fan around the UK, fan of the show, fan of yours. Ivy is a legend, an absolute class act, both inside and outside the ring. She also has a hidden talent. She's one hell of a ventriloquist. What's that all about?
I'm not doing it live, but there is a video of me doing it on Twitter somewhere. I don't really know how I discovered it. I think me and Brady were just messing around one day and trying to do it, and it turns out that I am quite good at ventriloquism. It's Do you have a surprisingly puppet? Good as well. I have to, I don't want to big myself up too much. Surprisingly good at it.
Oh, dear me. Absolutely fantastic. We got more questions that we'll bring up during the course of the interview. Thank you, Wrestling Jeebus, for tuning in and for sending in your questions for sure. Now, we have seen each other a few times during the course of this year, 2023. And the most recent time, I believe, was at the Frog and Fiddle in Cheltenham against that person there, LA Taylor, in a bat match. The Frog and Fiddle, a very intimate, quite rowdy venue in the middle of Cheltenham, and Southwest Wrestling love going there for their over 18 show. I know that you've got in the ring and worked LA on numerous occasions, but like I said, I think a little bit different this time with it being a bat match, and a little bit different with it being in the Frog and Fiddle in particular. What's your memories of that match against LA?
It was a challenge to try and sort of come up with. because obviously normally if you have weapons, you've got a chair and you've got a table and you've got a kendo stick. So there's all sorts of like variations. But because we've just got this one thing, it's like, how many inventive things can we come up with to do this? And I absolutely love LA Taylor. She's one of my closest friends in wrestling. I love spending time with her. I love wrestling her. It's great. So it was the best person, one of the best people I could have picked to do that with. And we just went out there and had fun with it. And one of the reasons I like LA so much is she doesn't take it too seriously. You know, she's happy to have fun with it. And she understands that this character that I have is, you know, I'm a Karen. I need to, it's not all about the wrestling. Sometimes there's a little bit of me that we need to kind of use in this situation. So
yeah,
it was a lot of fun. And I think for what we had, we came out with quite an interesting, fun match. You know, we got back and it was like we were hugging, and yeah, that was great. So it was an experience, but I think we came up with quite a few inventive bits and pieces, which I was really pleased with, proud of.
It worked. It definitely worked. And I think that match is probably already available on Southwest Wrestling's YouTube channel. So go and check it out, along with a whole archive of awesome footage from SWW. Speaking of SWW, the next time I will see you be this coming Saturday. And it's there from dusk till dawn. It's a kind of a two-parter. And part one of the day for SWW is going to be their Warriors Division show. And you're going to have a match against Natalie Sykes from the Watson Hall in Tewkesbury. That's going to be a wonderful day of pro wrestling from SWW, kicking off with the Warriors Division, and you're going to be there.
Yeah, can't wait. Natalie Sykes, I know very well. I was supposed to wrestle her at True Grit a couple of weeks back, but because I had my staples in my head and also COVID at the same time, I had to pull out of that match. So I'm glad we get to do it again so soon. Nat is another person that I like to spend a lot of time with backstage and stuff. So I'm glad that we get to do that. And it's always fun being around her. She does make me feel like the oldest person alive, though, because she's young and hip and cool. But yeah, Southwest is always great fun. Yeah. And they've got these women's shows, and it's really nice to see sort of a promotion focusing on those sort of things. So they're always fun shows to be at, and always got a good group of women there as well.
100%, yeah, got a really good roster promotion that's definitely on the rise in the UK. Another day where another couple of days was at a couple of Spinebuster media tapings. So the first one, speaking of the Watson Hall in Tewkesbury, you were teaming with Zizi to go up against Chantal Jordan and Millie McKenzie in a really, really fun match that's also up on Spinebuster Media's YouTube channel. Go and check that one out. But then we spent a day together in Nottingham in May. And it was kind of a day-long worth of media, of matches, I think from 4 till 11 p.m. and you were there. And the match that really, really took my attention was yourself and Zizi again against Big Man Inc. Now, I think it was the last match on at about 11:15 in the evening. But boy, you guys absolutely killed it in that match and delivered. But that was a really fun day. What are your recollections in particular of that match against Big Man Inc.? Because that was a lot of fun.
Well, Big Man Inc. Outside of the ring are two of my best friends. Absolutely adore them. They call me their wrestling mum. So they are very much like my kids.
This is Adam Bolton, Frankie...
Jackie T.
Yes.
Adam Bolton, Jackie T. Yeah.
Jackie T.
That's it. So they, I absolutely loved that match. And if I'm honest, I wasn't dreading it going into it because I knew who it was. It was going to be fun. But like you say, it was probably 10:30 at that time. And we'd been there since, 2:00 in the afternoon, maybe even earlier. It was our third match of the day. And I was just thinking, I was flagging by the time we got there. And, you just, am I going to get through this match? Am I going to just collapse in the middle of it because I'm so tired? But the adrenaline kind of takes over and we had such a fun time. And I think by that point, everybody was kind of just getting ready and excited to go. So you'd got Joe Connors and I think Brad Matthews was possibly on commentary at that time. And whilst wrestling, I could hear them being like super excited on commentary and just saying the wildest things. So if you listen to that commentary, it's also really funny as well. But just Absolutely. As like a group of mates doing that in such an intimate area, it was really fun. I slept very well when I got home and needed the day off after. Don't get me wrong. But,
well, I think it was a bank holiday Monday the following day, so I think a lot of us slept very well. But of course, it was at the House of Pain gym, Stix's gym in Nottingham, a place you know very well, which we'll talk about a bit later. But of course, no fans. So during the action, you could hear everything, including Joseph Connors and the commentary team on the outside. But a lot of fun, and that match was my favourite match of the night. It was really, really good. You guys absolutely delivered. And the place where I've probably bumped into you the most is going to be Wrestle Carnival, all the way back from 2021 through to this year. So the last couple of years, you've had a really, really fantastic run with them, and a bit of a hot streak, really. I think certainly in a Wrestle Carnival ring, you've not lost a match in nearly 2 years. But this year alone, you've had Harley Hudson at Clash at the Carnival in May from the HMV Empire in Coventry, and more recently, Rain Leverkusen at their Wrestle Carnival 2nd anniversary show. Give us a bit of a glimpse into your journey with Wrestle Carnival, because obviously coming out of COVID, coming out of the pandemic, it was a brand new company. I know Gary had planned to launch it maybe a year and a half earlier, but they finally got around to it August 2021. I think your first show was probably their second or third in, but then you're off to the races with them after that, weren't you?
Yeah, they've given me some of my favourite matches to date. One that really stands out to me, and we'll probably say this name a million times, is Lana Austion. Myself and Lana wrestled pre-COVID, and we never really gelled that well in the ring. And then, so I was nervous going into this one, and she's an incredible person, but I was really nervous, like, you know, the legend of Lana Austion, thinking, God, I don't want it to be like it was, you know, pre-COVID. I really hope that I can do her justice and whatever. And it's one of my favourite matches I've ever had. It was like we were two different people and we just worked so well together. And I really credit that match as being the match post-COVID that made me go, do you know what? I've really improved after the lockdown. Yeah, it really did make me think, okay, I've stepped it up a level here. Like, I've just hung with Lana Austion and we had one of the best matches. And everybody after was so complimentary of it, and it was so nice to have that. So it's great. That was one of the things that Carnival gave me. I'll always remember that match.
That was November 2021, wasn't it? That was towards the back end of 2021.
Yeah. And then I've worked with a couple of people that I've not really had the chance to. So I had a 4-way with Lizzie in there. That's the only time that me and Lizzie have ever been in a ring together. So that's always good to be around, you know, legends like that. Sky Smithson, I'd never been in there with Sky up until that point. And then since then, like you say, it's just gone strength to strength. The match with Rain Leverkusen is one of the best matches, most fun matches I've ever had. I absolutely loved that match. I don't often like watching my own matches back. I can always find and pick faults with it. But when I watched that one back, I was like, you know what? That was really fun and I enjoyed that. Yeah. And again, like you said earlier, it's really nice for Wrestle Carnival to kind of back me and put their faith in me. Gary had always said when he first came back that I was one of the people he wanted to sort of get behind and push, because I was more local and maybe hadn't been seen as much as some of the other girls that he used, like Ilanas and stuff like that. So it was nice for Gary to sort of see what I'd got to offer and give me that platform. And then here we are today. You know, next match is for the Queen of the Carnival Championship, and can't wait for it.
It sure is. We'll talk about that in a moment. But like I say, I'm so glad that you brought up your match with Lana from a couple of Novembers ago, because in my opinion, that was the match that really, really put you on the map. And it kind of, you know, took you to that next level. And honestly, hand on heart, I've said this to friends of mine, people within the business, that was one of my favorite matches of 2021. One of the best matches of 2021, hands down for sure, which is another reason why I'm so glad you're a guest on today's show, so we can talk about that and everything else for sure. But we will be talking about your match for the Queen of the Carnival Championship against Jetta, which is taking place early November, very, very soon. But correct me if I'm wrong, I think you've already had one bite at the cherry, hadn't you? And was it on an Eve show against Alex Windsor?
Yeah, it was great.
How was that? Because, I mean, I was going through your Wrestle Carnival kind of history, and then I remembered, she had a match against Alex Windsor, and it's one of Alex's first, if not only, defences, but it was in an Eve ring. How was that?
Yeah. So we were supposed to do it on a Carnival show. I can't remember where it was, somewhere local to me, but it got cancelled, unfortunately. So Dana, Eve very nicely said we could do it. We could do it there. And Alex Windsor's one of the most intense people I've ever been in a ring with in my life. I was so nervous going into that one because she's such an incredible talent. And I was at that stage where, I'd just done a couple of the match with Lana and some other big stuff. And I was like, I don't know if I'm, at a level where I can do this. So that one really pushed me. But Eve's an incredible promotion. I absolutely love working at Eve. The crowd there is so good. So it was a nice place to do that at and to still get the match. And I think that was Gary's big concern, was that he didn't want me to lose out on having that match with Alex, because he knew that it would mean a lot to me to get to do that and to really sort of push myself. So it was really great of both Dana, Eve and Gary from Wrestle Carnival to sort of get together and be able to still give me that match. But my God, is she tough.
Oh, yeah.
She is tough.
Absolutely. And this is the match that we're all looking forward to. Survival of the Fittest, taking place Sunday the 5th of November from Wrestle Carnival's now new home, the HMV Empire in Coventry, of course. Jetta, the second ever Wrestle Carnival Queen of the Carnival champion after Alex Windsor, of course. You've got your second opportunity, but your first actually inside a Wrestle Carnival ring inside the HMV Empire. We just delivered some amazing shows for Wrestle Carnival. It really creates a fantastic atmosphere. You looking forward to that one?
Yeah, can't wait. Me and Jetta have never done a singles either.
No way.
So it's always good to do something new. Like you say, great atmosphere at Carnival, great crowd. It's exactly the type of crowd that I like performing in front of as well. It's very sort of family friendly, which is perfect for me. I am actually on holiday, and I am coming from my holiday to wrestle Jetta. That shows you how committed I am.
No way.
That's
incredible.
A couple of the house of paying guys are going away for a couple of days, so I just said to them, look, on the Sunday, I've got to go wrestle at Wrestle Carnival, and then I'll be back.
Well, that's it. It's professional wrestling, isn't it? You don't take any days off in professional wrestling. I bet you take your gear everywhere with you, surely.
No, yeah, you have to.
You never know.
That's the rule.
You never know. I'm going to bring that graphic up one more time because tickets are still available. Go to thewrestlecarnival.com. All the links are on that website. That match alone is worth the price for admission, and you get to see Ivy finally, long overdue, get her shot at Jetta, long overdue, get her kind of shot for the Queen of the Carnival Championship, and I'm keeping both fingers crossed. I really, really hope you do that for sure. But before we carry on,
I got it.
Oh, you have 100%. Now you've been on here, like I say, I hope you don't jinx you or anything, but we've got to throw a quick shout out and a quick plug to my local promotion, Immortal Wrestling. And their next show is 25th of November from the Southwick Village Hall. And 7 of the 8 matches have already been announced. I'm going to whiz through them now. But for the King of England Championship, you've got Jack Selstrom, RKJ, Johnny Storm, and Flynn Daddy, Flynn Burden. Haven't got that graphic with me. A 4-way for the King of England Championship. That's going to be a tremendous match. If you like your big boys, you're going to like Dalton Garrett going up against Tim Strange. That's going to be an awesome match. 2 big balls going up against one another. And then in a career versus title match, Champagne Charlie defends his title in this 2-year-long rivalry that these two have had against Frankie T. And of course, they're going to have corner men. And you're just going to have to put up with me a little bit longer if you go to that show, because I will be the corner man of Champagne Charlie. That's going to be a lot of fun. And then to crown the inaugural Immortal Wrestling Tag Team Championships, you've got the Demon Death Squad versus the Battle Cats versus Tommy Lawrence and the Lion Kid. It's going to be a really, really fun, action-packed match to crown your first ever Immortal Tag Team Champions. And then, of course, we've got to Capture the Case, number 1 contenders match. Yeston Reese, Ripper Reed, CJ Rawlins are going to be battling to get that number 1 spot in the briefcase to cash in to possibly be the next Immortal Wrestling Champion. For the Women's Championship, we've got the Deadly One, Nightshade, who's been our long-time champion for Immortal Wrestling, taking on Violet Knight. That's going to be a really, really awesome match. You've got your strong babyface and heel dynamics there. The crowd are going to love that one all day long. And one of the main events for the show on the 25th of November. Devil's Playground is going to be Dirty Dango, current Impact star, former WWE star Fandango, will be over here in the country taking on Tate Mayfair's. And Tate will be wanting to prove that Tateness is greatness on the 25th of November. But that's 7 of the 8 matches already announced, and very, very strong lineup with the main event, the championship match, still to be announced, of course. But there we go. Let's just see where I am on my notes, catching up with everything. And of course, we've got to talk about this here, and some fine artwork there from Elliot 93. Thank you, Elliot. He does a lot of work for me as well. But I didn't want to kind of embarrass my guest at the top of the show and introduce you by that term you don't like, Ivy. So I didn't do that. But I know we've had a bit of a laugh backstage, and we did 1 or 2 promos. But this kind of not Karen, or definitely not Karen persona, that's been a lot of fun, and I think that's helped take your kind of character to that next level and add that extra layer to your kind of personality within inside the wrestling ring and outside the wrestling ring, which we'll talk about. But when did the kind of the Karen thing all start?
I'm not even sure when it happened. It was just so natural. I'd always been sort of the whiny, moany, miserable, heel. And I think it's just developed. I think what it is it's so relevant, isn't it, at the minute? Like, you flick, I spend hours on TikTok. You flick through TikTok and it's videos and videos of Karens. And I think a couple of times when I've been doing, bits and bobs, I've just thought back to something that I've heard. And I think it was William Regal. Brady always tells me this story, and I'm sure it's William Regal that said something like, when you want to be a heel, look at these people that you look at and think, God, that's so annoying, or I really dislike that person, and think, why do I dislike that person? Like, what is it about them? And then try and take those qualities from that and try and put it into your wrestling character, because if you dislike it, chances are somebody else will. So I think that's sort of where it all came from, that I was like, do you know what? When I've watched that TikTok, that really annoyed me. So I'm going to do that. And you see the classic lines on Facebook and stuff like that. And it's just kind of filtered into my character over time until it just was everything. I think I wrestled Alexis Falcon. I was doing it on and off. And me and Alexis wrestled at Chaos. And I was doing full Karen by that point, but maybe hadn't quite decided if that's where I was going. But it just happened that day. And we came back and she said, no, I love it. Keep doing that. That's what you should do. Yeah. And since then, I've just kept going with it. And it's been great to sort of evolve it as much as I can, especially at places like Phenomenal Elite. They're really good. They kind of like let me have, almost free reign with my character stuff. And so like one day we did the Facebook Live, the typical Karen, where I went round and filmed the audience and that sort of stuff. And that was really fun. And it's just, every month trying to think of new stuff that I can do to keep it fresh. Because it is so relevant at the minute. You've got 100%. Even little kids understand what a Karen is. All ages understand. If you call someone a Karen, they know what that means. But worryingly, it does come to me quite naturally. So I don't know what that says. I wasn't going
to say that, but but you're having a lot of fun with it, and the crowd are having a lot of fun with it. And I think it's given you the opportunity to kind of have a lot more fun with your character work. Before you always had a bit of character work with you, but this has allowed you to have a lot more fun with that side of your personality, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's really given me a direction. I think it was. Before, I've always been the nasty heel. That's always been the character, but it really gave me sort of a direction to go in, rather than just kind of being the nasty heel. It's like, I know who this character is. And I think since I've had this character, if you ever hear me on the mic and things now, I'm a lot more confident because I know who I am and what my character would do, rather than just trying to be big bad meanie. And if you know who you are, I think it's a lot easier to talk and be that person. So it's really sort of helped me figure out who I am and what I want.
Absolutely. And I may have neglected to say this at the top of the show, but we are live, of course, across Facebook Live, YouTube and Twitch. You want to get in touch with the show, you can do. If you want to send a question in for Karen, Ivy, then you can do. And sorry, it just slipped out. Get in touch with the show. Send your questions through to us, and we'll do our very best to answer them during the course of this interview. And we've had his name won't come up, but I've checked Facebook, and this is Scott Bell, renowned referee, somebody you know probably very well. Love working with Ivy, absolutely. And thank you so much for watching, Scott. Keep sending your questions in, and I've got tons more pictures to bring up, and a lot of them for the next 5 minutes or so is going to be yourself and Lana Austion, the Decibelles. And I do chuckle to myself whenever kind of I think of the name of that tag team and look at the two of you there. You two like peas in a pod. You look alike, you sound alike, you got that kind of brash attitude as characters. Absolutely fantastic. And with your megaphone and your book of losers, like I say, I'm sure that Act 2's eardrums are still ringing. And poor old Ant, the editor, I don't think he's recovered to this day. What have you done to the guy? What have you done to the guy? But we spoke about that tremendous match you had with Lana in November 2021 for Wrestle Carnival. And now you're very much on the same page as a tag team, as the Decibelles. Like I say, I love the name of that team. What brought the two of you together, and kind of like I say, it just works. The look, the dynamic, the characters, it just works.
It was the love of being a bad guy, I think. So we got to be really good friends outside of wrestling and stuff. So we talked to each other pretty much every single day. And, you know, when you, as naturally as you do as wrestlers, you get chatting about wrestling and your sort of opinion on things and how you view wrestling. And we just thought so similar. You know, we both like to be the bad guy. I mean, her character progression since coming back from COVID is very much, you know, like mine. She's really found herself. She knows exactly who she is now. And she's doing this, you know, mean girl gimmick perfectly. She's so good. And I was watching the stuff she was doing and it just in awe of, you know, how great she is. And the more we spoke about it, the more we were like, do you know what? We've actually got a lot of the same views. Wouldn't it be fun if we were to do tag team stuff together? And it was always an idea that we sort of batted around a little bit. And then SovPro booked me for one of their shows. It obviously was featuring Brady quite heavily and was, you know, if there's anything you want to do, then let us know. We can come up with storylines or whatever. And I just pitched it to them. I knew they'd been in touch with Lana separately. And I said, hey, both of us were kind of thinking of this. What do you think? And straight away they were like, yep, love it. Let's do that. And then it's just kind of escalated from there. But it's so natural, you know. I don't think we've ever, you know, sat down and said, hey, this is the gimmick we're going to do. Like, things have just progressed. You know, the SovPro actually gave us the megaphone. It was their idea, which was a great addition to the act. You know, it's perfect for what we want to do. We came up with the book of losers, mainly so we could do some promo bits and stuff with it. Just gives us a bit of a prop to do it. And it's just been the most fun, easy thing I've done in wrestling, and I absolutely love it.
Oh, absolutely. And like I say, I think that the other thing that's getting yourself and Lana over as the Decibelles, you're over in your own right, but as a team, are these kind of backstage promos, these backstage skits with the likes of Ant the Editor and Act 2, but a lot of fun, allowing the two of you to kind of get this gimmick over, this personality over. And it's so much more than just going out to the ring and giving it to the fans. You know, it's really kind of adding that extra element to what you do as a team, but I'm guessing there's plenty more of those to come, but you just need to be there, I suppose.
Yeah, it's getting the time to get, because when we see each other and we're dressed in wrestling attire, it's, you know, you've got matches and sometimes we've got separate matches and trying to get them done. So whenever we get time, we will literally just grab people. So those ones with Ant, Act 2, and the ones we did at Emerson and Session Moth were just backstage at a TNT show, and we were like, hey, can we do this? Can we do this? And luckily for us, most people are sort of receptive to it and happy to just let us do whatever it is that we want. We were lucky enough to film the one with D'Lo Brown, which was obviously the kind of first promo that we did, and to have somebody, you know, like D'Lo on there, that was great for us. That kind of really got us going. And I think we go into it and we're like, you know, we'll find Act 2, right? Who can we do a promo with? There's Act 2. They're great guys. Let's do it with them. And we'll say, what we're going to do. And it's like this. There's no plan. We just kind of have the natural sort of back and forth. Okay, let's do this. And then most of the time you get somebody that can give it back to you. So we went to Act 2 and said, this is the idea. And then they'll be like, yeah, and we'll say that Friends is rubbish. And then we'll do this to you at the end. And, most of the time you get somebody that's creative and can, bounce off them.
Yeah.
There's never any plans. We have the odd ones where we talk and, we very randomly just send each other promo ideas every now and again. Like, I've come up with this idea. Why don't we do this? And we'll try and get stuff filmed. But a lot of the time it's just very natural. Grab somebody and film something.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you and Lana go all the way back to the South Side days, don't you? Back in about 2018, the two of you kind of first locked horns and kind of rubbed shoulders in 2018 for South Side. And the two of you, I mean, when you compare the Lana Austion and the Ivy from 2018 through till now, totally different performers and wrestlers, and the whole package is different now, isn't it?
Yeah. Lana was in my Southside debut. It was me and Eliza Rue versus Lana Austion and Session Moth in Sheffield. And I was terrified, so scared, because Lana Austion and Session Moth, these big names, and Southside was so big at the time. RIP Southside. I missed that promotion like no other.
A lot of people do, yeah.
Yeah. It was one of my favourite things I've ever done. I absolutely love Southside, and both those girls were big names in Southside and across the country at that time. But yeah, like you say, Lana was doing the sort of girly girl. She was coming out to Venga Boys and that sort of stuff. And I think we've had a similar trajectory in terms of character development. It's that after the lockdown, we kind of just went, what can we do here? But she is probably polar opposite of what she was before.
100%, absolutely. And final thing regarding Lana before we move on, please tell me, is she giving you any singing lessons? I hope not.
All the time. I don't know what you mean. She's got a beautiful voice.
Oh, well. Beautiful is
it's
one way of putting it, for sure. Beautiful is one way of putting it. Let's move on. But lots of fun. Tell us a bit about your wrestling fandom then, because I know, like I say, you came up in the business with your sister Ruby. We'll talk about that tag team a bit later. But were you like as a family wrestling fans?
So me and my brother was. So I've probably watched wrestling since I was maybe 7 or 8, maybe a bit older, maybe 10, 11, something like that. And it started off with my neighbor would play the wrestling games. So it was like the old original PlayStation games.
Yeah.
And I'd go around and we'd play that and whatever. And that kind of got me interested in it. And then weirdly at school, my best friend used to be really, really tall. And the boys, it's a horrible story actually thinking back, but the boys used to call her the Big Show. And I was like, who's the Big Show? Like, what is this? And then sort of like put 2 and 2 together and was like, oh, I'm going to watch this, see who the Big Show is. And that is how I got into watching wrestling, was just because they used to pick on my friend and torment her for being, so tall. So me and my brother used to watch it. And then I, kind of outgrew it. I stopped watching for a little bit. And then the thing that really dragged me back in was CM Punk. So when Punk was doing all, his pipe bomb stuff around that time, that really dragged me back into it. And then I've been watching it consistently since then. I decided I needed to do something basically to stop me from getting fat, because I don't like the gym. Still to this day, I don't like the gym. And I was like, I need to do something. What can I do that will encourage me? And I've never liked anything else other than wrestling. So I was like, you know what, we might be able to do something here with that. So that's how I started in it.
Well, where did you start then? Because I think according to my records, you started in about 2016, 2017, if I'm not mistaken. How did you first get involved with the training school, and how did that part of your journey kind of happen? Let's say it takes a lot of courage to kind of step through them doors on day one, doesn't it?
Yeah. So I started at a school in Rotherham called NCWA. They run shows under Elite British Wrestling. They're not existent anymore. They didn't come back after lockdown. So they just literally, and this is absolutely the wrong thing that you should do as a wrestler who wants to start, but I literally just Googled wrestling schools near me. And because I was in Sheffield, that's the first one that comes up. So, the advice we're given now is make sure you look for something that, you look for reputable trainers and that sort of stuff. But I literally had no idea at that time. I didn't know anything other than WWE. So I found that school, and then I went to Phoenix Events that run the One More Round shows you spoke about earlier.
Yeah.
The promoter of that was one of the wrestlers at Elite British Wrestling, and he was running a show called, what was it called? Let's Start a Riot. It was in Sheffield. It was the return show for Chris Travis when he came back from having cancer the first time. Yeah. And it had got Drew McIntyre on, Grado was on, Chris Masters was on, Rampage. Wow. And because the school were because he was a wrestler there, the school was advertising that show. So I went down to that show. That's the first ever indie show I went to, or the first thing I knew outside of WWE. I didn't even know this whole world existed. So that was the first show I went to. And then when I went to that, I thought, right, I've made a decision. Like, just in a small Queen's Social Club, it was called, in Sheffield, which anyone who's a Sheffield wrestling fan will remember. There's been various shows there, and it's not existing anymore. But in this tiny venue, and I thought, do you know what, if Drew McIntyre can wrestle in here and do this, maybe I could go and do that at this training school. So that's where I started with it.
Absolutely. And I think it was probably a year or so before you started teaming with Ruby as the firstly, I think it was the Pretty Little Monsters, and then the Pretty Little Things, unless I'm mistaken. And to prove what a mark I am, I thought that Ruby was your legit sister, but I'm guessing that's not the case.
She is not. No, she's not.
There we go. Had us all along, ladies and gentlemen. Had us fooled all along. I kind of, every day is a school day for Johners. It sure is. But what was that first year or so like before forming that tag team and going out by yourself, learning the ropes, cutting your teeth, finding out what the business is all about at a fairly young age? That sounds quite daunting. But how was it?
So when I first started, ironically, this is going to surprise you. The training school didn't put me on shows for a while because they thought that I would be too quiet. They were worried that I would be too quiet. So I trained for probably a year before I ever did any shows. Okay. And because they were worried about me being quiet, they put me with a team called the Monsters, hence why we ended up as Pretty Little Monsters. So that was Alan Kay, Sam Kenny and Jason Jacobs, who people might have known sort of on the Sheffield scene and sort of further afield. So I was with them. So that was nice because I wasn't completely alone. So every time I went out there, I'd got a friend there to sort of back me up and have somebody there. So that was a nice start. I ended up being the loudest one out of the group of us, but
no,
I know, right? But no. It was nice to kind of have backup and have someone there. And then one of my first outside bookings, so Joseph Connors used to wrestle for EBW every now and again, and he has a training school called Elevation in sort of the Leicester area. He said to me, do you want to come down and do one of our shows? And Joseph Connors is a big deal, and he's just asked me to do one of his shows. Like, that's pretty daunting. So I went down there, and that is the most scared I've ever been in my life, sort of walking into that environment where I don't know anybody. Joseph Connors, who, he's a big name, and I know him well now, and he's great, but at the time I was absolutely terrified of him because of who he was, and he's this, big, ominous guy, that knows everything about wrestling. So that's the most scared I've ever been, is going to the first outside promotion where I didn't know anybody. Funnily enough, it's the first time I ever met Brady Phillips, and he ignored me the whole day. So
dear me.
I know.
I hope you've reminded him. Did you remind him of that quite frequently?
Well, he says it was me. He says I ignored him, and I said, listen, I was brand new at this place. You trained there. You should have looked after me. But so we 100%. Argue about it regularly.
Brilliantly. And then you started teaming with not your sister, Ruby, of course. And there's a couple of match graphics, and Ruby is the one at the top right hand corner, of course. And the Pretty Little Things were formed. And I think Ruby came into the business maybe a couple of years, 3 years ahead of you. So she had a little bit of a bit more experience, a bit more knowledge, and she probably kind of helped you along the way, certainly as you were forming forming this tag team. But the Pretty Little Things were then kind of a bit of a staple, weren't they? And that was kind of you did frequently wrestle as a singles wrestler, but more often than not as a tag team with Ruby.
Yeah, I think it was nice at that time to be able to have a bit of a mixture of both. And that's how I feel now as well. That I absolutely adore tag team wrestling. It's my favorite type of wrestling. So it was nice to kind of have that option of, I could do singles wrestling, or if you want tag team wrestling, I've got a bit of a variation for you. And there wasn't many, and still isn't many, female tag teams about at the time. Yeah. So it was nice to kind of have something different. Ruby was actually my first match at EBW where I trained. She was my first external person coming into the training school. So that was that's how we sort of met each other, and we had a nice little match, fun match, and I always remember that one. So that was kind of where we met, and then carried on talking from there. I think we spent time together at a Progress show maybe once, and just got to be good friends from there, and that's how the Pretty Little Killers were kind of formed. But yeah, so it was nice to just have both of those options to be able to offer to promotions and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And I actually saw the two of you post-pandemic wrestle. Now it was in TNT, Liverpool, and I can't remember what show it was now. It was the one with all the bands, and the show went on for 10 hours.
Field. Yeah. There we go.
Extreme Fields. That was very, very good, and great to see the two of you there. Now, a curious question from me, and this is something that's kind of followed you throughout the whole of your career, near enough, and that's the bat, the baseball bat. How soon into your journey, into your kind of career, did you start bringing a bat with you to the ring when it became kind of part of your persona, your gimmick? Tell us a bit about the origins of the bat and Ivy. Oh, hello. Did you get me there?
I got origins of the bat, and then you froze.
My apologies, technology. But tell us a bit about the origins of the bat, when you started taking it to the ring, and kind of how it became part of, and still is part of, your persona.
It was all coincidental. There was no plans to it. So when I was in the Monsters, the bat was actually Sam Kenny's. Right. And he used to carry it. He kind of had, he was almost like the Joker. So we had, Joker gear, and so we had the baseball bat and things like that. And they actually won some title belts. It was tag title belts, I think. So he got to the stage where he's got his tag title belt and the baseball bat, and he has to take his jacket off. And I think at one point he had a straight jacket on. So he was like, I can't carry all these things. Can you carry the bat? So that's what happened. And then I don't know if I must have just put it in my mouth or something stupid like that. I've got no story of me coming up with this. It is obviously just random show one day, and probably in front of 20 people back in the EBW days, of just finding out I can carry this baseball bat in my mouth. And Sam was like, do you know what? Just keep it. You might as well use it, because what you're doing is more interesting than what I'm doing with it. I actually just stole it from someone else.
Yeah, it definitely stands out. I love the way you hold it in your mouth like that. So I often wonder, oh, crikey, would my teeth, I'd have to go to the dentist every so often. It's like, crikey. But that's just me. That's a Nick. But
I can't do it if I've got no adrenaline. So if you just ask me to do it now.
Really? Because they're heavy, aren't they?
Hurt. Yeah. So I was filming a promo with Spinebuster, actually, where he was sort of filming me in some fun locations, and he said, right, go and squat over there with the bat. And he was doing it, and he was just sort of filming a still of me to use in this promo. And I was like, Andy, I need to stop. It's so heavy. But I just don't realize it when I've obviously got the adrenaline pumping. It doesn't register.
Absolutely. Now, 2018, I think, was probably your first full year in the business, certainly having matches, to the best of my knowledge. 2019, you kind of really was kind of hitting the ground running. 2019 was a really, really good and busy year for you, where you were kind of branching out a bit more, wrestling for new promotions around the UK. So you were kind of really had this momentum behind you going into 2020. And we all know what happened in 2020, but kind of at the end of 2019, going into 2020, you had your debut for PCW as well. So you must have had this massive wave of momentum behind you and feeling good at that point in time.
Yeah, it was going into the pandemic. It felt horrendous because in my head I was like, this 2020 was going to be my year. And we all say it. Every wrestler says next year is going to be my year. But I did genuinely think, like you said, picked up a bit of steam towards the end of it. And I was like, oh, God, like this is just the worst timing. But actually, when I look back now, if we hadn't had the pandemic year, I wouldn't have moved to House of Pain. I wouldn't have gone and got the training that I had there that meant I could be who I am now. I wouldn't have learned as much as I did about wrestling outside of doing it. So we did a lot of sessions with watching wrestling and picking out. Obviously, we can't do stuff in the ring. So there's loads of other, virtual stuff that we're trying to do. And if I hadn't had that year, a lot of the stuff that I now use in my wrestling now and my character and stuff, I wouldn't have picked up. So as rubbish as that was, and it's still rubbish to think that we missed out on all that time, especially because I'm 34, so I'm pushing it in terms of age, and I was back then. So it wasn't ideal to miss that much time, but it is hard to be sad about it because I definitely would not be who I am today without it, and I'm pleased that I am the wrestler I am now compared to who I was pre-COVID.
Yeah, absolutely. Tell us a bit about House of Pain and Styx, who runs that wonderful training school in Nottingham, of course, and that's where we filmed that mammoth Spinebuster Media Day, which was a ton of fun. But how did you kind of come across Styx and get involved with House of Pain? And would I be right in thinking that you're now one of the kind of coaches there as well? Do you kind of help with course lessons every so often, sessions, I should say?
No, I try and stay away from stuff like that, mainly because I don't think I'm in a position to be teaching people. So I have my worst habits in wrestling are some of my basics aren't great because I didn't find a training school like House of Pain at the start of my career.
Right.
So I'm very conscious that the things that I am weakest at are the things that in a training school you should be the best at. So that's the sort of thing that I try and work on whenever I go training, because I know that is my weakness, and it is unfortunate because I'm almost working backwards, but so that's why I try and avoid any sort of coaching. Another training school approached me recently to ask to take their women's sessions, and I just said, look, I don't feel like I'm in that position yet. Ask me to teach character stuff and I'd be fine with it, but I just don't feel like I'm in a position to teach anybody sort of wrestling stuff. I can do my own bits and bobs, like I've got my stuff down, but I don't feel like my basics are good enough to be pushing that on anybody else. Hopefully I'll be at that point, because that's what Styx is great at. That's why Styx is so good. But 100%. I don't do any of the coaching for him, but so I knew Styx used to come up to EBW and do some shows for them because that was sort of Sheffield, Rotherham based, and Nottingham's not too far. So I knew Styx, I knew of the school. We'd done a couple of cross promotion bits and bobs, and obviously I was on a couple of shows with Styx. So when lockdown happened and we could finally open up a little bit, but only to do smaller groups, Styx actually messaged me and said, hey, do you and Brady want to come down, with 2 others or whatever, and just get some ring time in? And I think we went down with Ruby, and maybe I think Blake was there with us. So we just did a couple of those sessions. Sometimes you had to stop and go back to the beginning because of lockdown again. And so I was really just, doing bits and bobs there. And one day Styx was at the school and he said, hey, do you want me to teach? Because we were kind of maybe at a loss because we'd been doing so much. He was like, do you want me to teach you some stuff? And it was really there and learning from Styx that I became a tag wrestler. Not just a wrestler that is put in tag matches. That being around Styx is where I learned how to do tag team wrestling and be a tag wrestler. And that's what I love doing now. It's my favorite thing. So I was just like, do you know what? This is the school for me. The way that Styx teaches is absolutely spot on for me. And everybody's got different preferences. People like to be taught in different ways, but the way Styx does it is exactly how I want to be taught. The way Styx wrestles is exactly how I want to wrestle. He's this great family crowd wrestler, but he can also do the more sort of indie side of things that, so he is everything I want to be in a wrestler. So why not be taught by him? And he's got such a great, school there. You've been there yourself. You've got the 2 rings. Working in the 20-foot ring is great because sometimes you get thrown into that situation where a promotion's got a 20-foot ring, and if you're not used to working in it, it can be a challenge because it's a lot more steps than you used to take in. So training in that ring is incredible. He's got the gym there. There's plenty of places to film promos if you want to do it. We've been down there and filmed promos. He's got the TV there, and we'll watch matches on YouTube and stuff. And just the environment, he's got different levels of classes. You've got your beginners, intermediates, advanced. He does drills sessions, which are great for like in-ring cardio and just conditioning and stuff like that. So the whole school as a whole, and I've met some of my best friends there, in the last few years. So it's great to be around that environment. I've not got enough good things to say about Styx and House of Pain.
Absolutely, and we will be talking about a couple of their trainees in particular very, very soon. But coming out of lockdown, and I think you briefly alluded to it, but I mean, you were working for promotions that you'd already worked for previously, and some new promotions as well that are coming onto the scene, like Wrestle, Carnival, and Catch, for example. But did it take a little while to regain your confidence in the ring? Everybody talks about ring rust, and I'm sure there would have been an opportunity to knock off some of that at the training school before you returned, but was there a little bit of apprehension or maybe a lack of confidence before you went back out on the road?
I don't think I had it because I felt like I was going back in a new wrestler.
Really?
I was more excited to go in and say, hey, look at what I've done in lockdown. Look at who I am now. Like, I had a whole new look. I've got longer hair and, new gear and all that sort of stuff. And it does, like, make you, have this, maybe it's a false sense of security that, I've made myself look different. But I did feel like I was going back into it, a whole new version of who I was going into lockdown. And I really had a confidence in, do you know what? Actually, I know what my abilities are and I know who I am now. And so I almost had like an excitement of wanting to show people that. And the first show back was Catch, actually, which was a big show for me to go back to. It was the big women's show, and you've got, your Rios, your Lizzies, Alexis, you've got all those guys on, and that was big for me going back to that. So I had a confidence going back, and I'd spent so much time. Styx was really good at getting us as much ring time as possible, but also sticking to all the rules, and he's got, all the COVID protocols. So we were training in such a safe environment that I had got a confidence going back. I wouldn't say it was apprehension, which maybe is my own ego, but I don't regret it.
I think that's really cool that you kind of went in there, hit the ground running, because like I say, you were busy pretty much from the off. And one company I do want to talk about in particular, and they launched in around about the April or the May of 2022, and you joined shortly afterwards, and that's PEW, Phenomenal Elite Wrestling. And you've become a staple of that group ever since. I think you've only missed maybe 1 or 2 shows in the last year and a half, but they've become one of your home promotions. They've given you a platform. They've given you lots of really cool experiences and opportunities. I know you said earlier they've allowed you to kind of run with the Karen Gimmick and all the great stuff you're doing there, but PEW, there must be a promotion that's very close to your heart, and they're doing some great stuff, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, the best thing about PEW is I got to work with, we formed the group The Entitled, which was myself, Brady, Riley Nova, Martin Kirby, and Jim Diehard. And so pre-COVID, when we was at Southside, myself and Brady were working with Martin Kirby a lot. Brady was in a feud with him, so we got to do a lot of bits and bobs with him. And getting to go back and work with Kirby is just my favorite thing ever. Like, I learned so much from being around him. Just the way he wrestles, his character, everything. And I've just absolutely loved being in that group of people. And Brady and Riley are working together as a tag team, and that just works so seamlessly. It's great to see. And then I was doing bits and bobs with Jim Diehard, who I didn't even know. I'd met, maybe once or twice, but I was ringside for him, and our dynamic was really good together. So yeah, it's a lovely little promotion in front of the crowds are just growing and growing and growing. The venues have got better, and they really are just family friendly fun, and that's what I love. I've said it before. I just love family friendly wrestling and that sort of stuff. But they, give me the chance to put some more exciting things with the character and stuff in the ring, but getting to work with the Entitled as a group is just my favourite thing that's come from that. And we're sort of evolving the storyline now. Martin Kirby got kicked out for not pulling his weight. So although that's sad for me because he's not in the group, it now means we get to work against him, which is, you know, equally, if not better, for us to do. So I'm really excited to see where that goes and get to keep working with that group of people. And obviously we've brought in Lizzie Evo recently, who very meanly took the title belt from me, but that does mean I get to do another match with Lizzie, and that's a dream match for me. We've never done a singles, probably because we're both normally the mean ones, so nobody books us against each other because we're, you know, both the bad guy. But luckily for me, it does mean I get to, you know, work somebody that I've not had the opportunity to do in a singles competition. So yeah, some good things coming.
There we go. We had a viewer that reached out to us earlier. His name won't come up, but I have checked. I think it's Richie Stubbs, friend of the show, and he asks, what do you prefer, babyface or heel? Now, I've not seen you perform as a babyface much, if at all. You probably have, and you probably do, but do you have a preference? I think I know the answer to this one, to be fair.
I hate being a babyface. People don't believe it. They don't. So I did babyface at Catch for a while, and I wrestled Harley Hudson on an all-women's show. And Harley Hudson was babyface, so it's babyface. And I could just tell the whole way through the match, the crowd were waiting for that moment where I do something bad. And when I didn't, they were kind of like, what? You know, like, who do we cheer? The only time it's ever worked was me and Brady versus Lana and Rob Drake. Because Lana is such a horrible heel and Rob was beating me up. So it was kind of like they beat me up and then Brady gets the big sort of save. That's the only time I've ever had any sympathy where people believe me as a babyface. And it was mainly because Lana was just a bigger dickhead than I was.
Oh, brilliant. And we had Scott Bell again send in another question. What's your favourite match that you've had? I know we spoke very fondly about your match with Lana from Wrestle Carnival nearly a couple of years ago, which is certainly one of my favourite matches of yours. Do you have any others that stand out?
I think my favourite match ever is Lana, but it was at Eve. So we did an opener. It was my Eve debut, actually. So there was a lot of pressure going into it to make sure, you know, I performed. We did the opener, and Dan sort of said to us, right, we were going into this thinking, right, 10 minutes, easy peasy, done. And I think he said, like, you've got 15 minutes and it's almost going to a tie break. And I was like, oh my God, I've got to do 15 minutes with Lana. And I think that's probably my favourite match. The one that I watch back probably most fondly because of where it was, who it was. But that's probably up there as one of my favourites.
Absolutely. And well, we alluded to it earlier on, and we spoke about Styx and House of Pain, and I think two of their trainees, two that you're very close to as well, that are really starting to grab attention. And the headlines, I should say, is Joey Cement, and that's the main event family, yourself and Joey Cement, as the what tag team champions is that? I can't quite recall.
That's the Win Tag Team Championship. Wrestling in Northampton, not to be confused with wrestling in Newcastle.
No, exactly. And then of course Zizi. I've seen you tag with Zizi many times. I was totally and utterly impressed with Joey Cement when I did the Spinebuster tapings back in May. He's a young lad, 16, 17 years old, but he's wise beyond his years, a tremendous character, incredible in front of a camera as a promo guy. I think he was injured at the time, so he wasn't able to wrestle, and I think he performed as a manager and cut loads of promos backstage and interviews with me backstage, and got involved in some of the matches. But Joey Cement, first of all, if he's this good at 16 years old, what's he going to be like in 5 years' time?
I know, and it just shows you the quality of House of Pain training, because he's been training there since he was 13. He might have even been 10. You know, he was a valet for Johnny Concrete, I think, and he used to be like, he had a Baywatch top
Johnny
on,
Concrete,
like,
Joey Cement, I love it.
Yeah. Well, I didn't even get that. It was only till he said, I think he was talking about possibly changing his name, and I was like, why? And he said, oh, because of it's an old name. And I didn't, until he said it, I didn't even make the connection. I was like, oh God. But yeah, it shows, you know, the quality of House of Pain. He's been around Styx his entire life and that sort of group. And he's been doing Mega Slam a lot, which I think has really helped him because it means he's, you know, sort of come out of his comfort zone and had to do, you know, some other stuff. And he's gone and called me his mum, and now we're main event family at Win. I can't, you know, I've got so many wrestling kids at this point. I can't keep track. So that's what we perform as at Win. So I'm his mum and he's the son.
Absolutely. And tell us about Zizi, because Zizi's absolutely everywhere at the moment. Still very young in years, but she's got a lot of matches under her belt already. And what's really impressive about Zizi is I don't think she's scared of anything. She's capable of almost anything. She's exceptionally powerful and got no fear, but her power is just on another level altogether.
She's completely different to everybody else out there at the minute.
Yeah.
She's, you know, 6 foot whatever. I can't big her up for her height because she calls me short all the time, but she's 6 foot whatever. She looks like a star. She carries herself like a star. So if she carries on the way she is, then the sky really is the limit for Zizi. She's, you know, like you say, she's packing some great matches under her belt. She's managed to work with a lot of the girls on the scene that she really needs to be working with to sort of get to that point. And she's really sort of carving her way through and finding that place in British wrestling. So who knows where this girl will be in, you know, five years time. Tremendous I just hope that she remembers me and, you know, gets me some free tickets to WrestleMania or something when she's there.
Oh, no doubt, no doubt. And we had a question that came through before we went live. Let me just find it from a friend of the show, Darren Ewan. What opponents would you like to face in your career? So I'm guessing that this is opponents that you probably haven't done so already. They could be rematches, but do you have a bucket list, dream matches, people that you'd love to face on the UK circuit or maybe further afield?
On the UK, it was Lizzie, but, you know, hopefully that's to come. So fingers crossed. I get that there. There's a lot of the younger talent that's coming through. I had a great match with Sapphire Reed. I'd love to wrestle her again. We were kind of rushed to get to our match, but it turned out great. So I'd love to see what we could do with, you know, a bit more time. You know, that was amazing. I'd love for some more sort of female tag teams to come through. So we've got, you know, bits and bobs. One of the people I loved working and would love to do it again was Molly Spartan. I wrestled her at True Grit, and that was so much fun. I'd love to do that again. Further afield, I'd love to work. My dream opponent of all time, and this might be controversial, is Nikki Bella. The Bellas, I absolutely adore the Bellas, Nikki especially. So she is my ultimate dream opponent. So if they ever come back, what I would like more than anything is the Iconics to come back as a tag team.
I loved the Iconics so much.
They are, you know, I watch like their promos and stuff all the time, and I'm like, if me and Lana can be anything like the Iconics, that is the dream. So I just think, imagine us tagging against them. I know Billy Kay, I can't remember her name is now. Billy Kay has just had a baby. Oh, he's pregnant with baby, so we might be waiting a while. But if that is ever on the card, that is the dream match for now, I think. The Decibelles versus the Iconics.
Just for the promos alone. The promos alone, that could sell tickets all day long.
The wrestling at this point, just, you know, everything else around it is great.
Let's see if we've had any more questions come through. No, I think we're all up together with that. Let me ask you, so we've kind of spoke about your early career. We spoke about what you've been up to more recently. Like I say, 2023 has been a tremendous year. Packing the gold for sure. Fantastic work with Lana in the Decibelles and Joey Cement and Zizi and all that good stuff. But what do you think the future holds for Ivy? Now, this is always a tricky or maybe sometimes a bit of a loaded question, but are there other things you want to achieve in the future? Like I say, I think this is the best version of Ivy we've ever had. But what's next?
Now I've got older, I'm very much just approaching this as I just want to enjoy myself. Everybody can, you know, get stressed about, I want to work at this promotion, I want to work at this promotion, I want to do this. And if those opportunities come, that's incredible. And I love, you know, to get more opportunities. But all I want to do is enjoy myself. I'm 35 next year. you know, I've probably not got that much long left. I just want to have fun and work with, you know, my friends and enjoy what I've got left of it. That's all I want to do. I'm confident that, you know, if in 10 years' time, I can look back on my career and be happy with what I've done. So now I'm at that point. I just want to enjoy myself.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Really, really good. And before we ask you to give us your socials, just a quick reminder of my next guest later on this week, Friday the 27th. I've got the All-Star Ruby Manitoba coming onto the show, a slightly later start time of 9 p.m. But join us there. That's going to be a fantastic interview with Ruby, and of course my November lineup: Dirty Dango, Session Moth, Lana Austion herself. I'm definitely going to be talking about the Decibelles when I speak to Lana. Tom Scarborough, Kira Chimera, Leon Cage, Dirty Dango, Nico Angelo, and World of Sports, British wrestling legend Johnny Saint. But Ivy, you've been an awesome guest on episode 328 of Wrestling with Johners. But if any of my viewers, listeners, followers out there want to get in touch, want to learn more about you, your wonderful matches, your wonderful tag teams, and all the gold you'll carry, and where can they reach out? Where can they say hi? Where can they do so?
So it's Ivy_wrestler on Twitter and Instagram, and then Ivy Wrestler on TikTok and Facebook.
He's coming along slowly. Let's have a look. I think you're right. But
I think I am. It's a memory test. Try and keep them all the same.
Just search in Ivy Wrestler, and it's going to pop up. And you've got a TikTok as well. Do you do much on TikTok?
I've been doing the Halloween makeup looks recently, but I add the odd things. But Lana tends to do the promos and stuff on there, so I tend to share those stuff. But there is some Halloweeny bits on there at the minute of me being a dork with my.
And you've got a big cartel as well. Tell us a little bit about that and what is on offer on your big cartel, Ivy.
Yeah, so there's a couple of 8x10s on there. I do tend to have them at shows with me, but I'm running very low. So a couple of 8x10s. Brady Phillips 8x10s are also on there because he's too lazy to set up his own shop. So I have to do that and post those out for him. So there's those on there. There's some old gear and stuff for sale if that interests anyone. But yeah, so I think that's ivywrestler.bigcartel.co.uk, I think. But it's on the bottom, isn't it? I think.
Sounds about right. It's coming along shortly. But it's been amazing having you on a guest, as a guest on Wrestling with Johners. And like I say, a bit of a bucket list for me because I've wanted to get you on for a little while now, and I'm glad that I finally have. But if you've got any parting words, any final message from Ivy to your friends, family, followers at home, what would be your parting words to those at home watching you and listening to you today?
I want to big up referee Scott Bell, actually, because we mentioned him earlier. He's my favourite referee in the world. Big up Scott Bell. Everyone be nice to your referees. Stop breaking tag rules, because Ref Scott Bell is fuming. Stop it. But other than that, I just wanted to say that I'm definitely not a Karen.
Oh, okay then. All right, if you say so. But Ivy, it's been amazing having you on there. It's been a pleasure speaking to you for the last hour and 17 minutes. Can't wait to catch up with you at Southwest Wrestling over the weekend, and many more shows to come. But take care, and thank you so much for being an awesome guest.
No worries. Thanks for having me.